Real estate agents, trusted advisors, or commission-hungry sharks? The headlines always seem to scream scandal, while on the other hand, there are tens of thousands of agents quietly helping families achieve their dreams. So, is the industry's bad reputation deserved in 2025, or is it time to separate fact from media narrative?
If you treat people like crap, you probably deserve your bad reputation.
Until the industry embraces radical transparency and genuine accountability, skepticism is not just understandable, it's justified.
The stereotype of shady, untrustworthy agents is a relic of time when the market was less regulated and information was scarce.
The practice of overpromising and underdelivering is still widespread.
Welcome to Edge Case, where we take real estate's most controversial statements and put them through a proper debate. I'm Samantha McLean. Here is what makes this podcast different. Our guests will argue their assigned positions with full conviction, even if they don't personally believe them. Why? Because that's how we expand our conversations and we can challenge long-held assumptions. Today's explosive topic is that real estate agents still deserve their bad reputation. So let me introduce both of our guests. Dion Besser. Dion Besser is the founder of Besser Co with nearly 2 decades of experience in both Melbourne and London. So Dion, you've built your reputation on straight talking about industry issues. When someone at a dinner party says they don't like real estate agents much, what's your gut reaction to this topic?
My gut reaction to that comment is, let me demystify real estate for you, because I like to think of myself as a bit of a straight shooter, and I like to explain to people exactly the rules of engagement and the rules of the game. So our industry has a lot of work to do, I believe.
Luke Evans in the blue corner. Luke is the General Manager of Sales for New South Wales and ACT for the agency. And Luke, you've worked with hundreds of agents across your career. When you see another sort of rogue agent story in the news, what goes through your mind?
I think there's, I agree with the statement that there's a lot of work to do, but I also think a lot of work has been done. And I always try to look at from what side of the transaction are the complaints and the noise and the adversity being echoed. But it's not surprising, but I do double down on where the issue had actually arisen and whether it's a breakdown in communication or a breakdown in service.
Let me show you how we got here and who's arguing what side. I know you guys are very much into sales, so I'm going to give you a choice of 3 topics that you're going to look at these 3 topics. You're not going to say anything, and then we're going to do a coin toss to see who gets to choose the topic and who gets to choose affirmative or negative. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Ready? Ever ready? Ready? Our first topic is percentage-based commissions are outdated and should be replaced by a flat fee for service. Topic number 2 is that real estate agents still deserve their bad reputation. And topic number 3 is that AI will replace 50% of agents within 3 years. Dion, any initial reactions out of any of those topics?
I actually quite like each of those 3 topics. I'm gonna find it difficult to argue against number. I should.
No, don't tell him that.
No, I'm not going to say anything.
Don't tell him that.
I quite like all 3 topics. I can definitely talk to all 3 of them.
I would say the same thing. I knew I liked the AI mix of it. I thought that was going to be definitely one of the questions, being that you're the queen of AI, Sam. So I was expecting that to be in there. But I think there's definitely talking points on all 3 of them for both sides. So some good topics there.
So what we might do is we might flip the coin now. Now, Dion, I'm going to let you choose heads or tails. So let's, this is my very salubrious coin flipper here now. I've actually vibe coded this.
Heads.
All right, here we go, flipping. It is heads. You have won the toss. Would you like to choose the topic or which side you're on?
Which side I'm on?
Which side you're on. Okay, so that means, Luke, you're going to choose the topic, and here's a reminder.
I am going to go with option number 2, please.
Option number 2, lock in number 2, that real estate agents still deserve their bad reputation. Dion, after the topic was chosen, you were quick, very quick, I might add, to pick the affirmative side. What was the reasoning behind that decision?
Having opened up my own brand nearly 16 years ago, I was very quick because I actually have an opinion as to how some agencies and agents behave in the industry. And unfortunately, as a result of these particular agents and agencies, the community, the public really brush all of us as that particular stereotype.
And a reminder for everyone listening, this isn't about declaring winners and losers. It's about pushing ourselves to think differently. And every Monday after we release an Edge Case episode, there will be a poll in the brief, our daily newsletter, where you will be able to weigh in. So a quick recap, here's how Edge Case works. First, there'll be opening statements, 90 seconds for each person to make their case. Then question time, our debaters will ask each other questions about what they've said. Round 3 is where each person will share real examples and data to prove their points. And then my favourite bit, the truth reveal, where we all drop the debate positions and Dion and Luke will tell us what they really think. So, okay, you guys, are you ready to challenge a few assumptions and make our audience think? Are you as they say, ready to rumble?
Let's do it. I'm ready.
Let's do it. All right. Well, on the affirmative side, we've got Dion Besser. So, Dion, you are arguing that agents still deserve the bad rap. You've got 90 seconds to make us believers. Take it away.
Let's do it. Well, I'm Dion Besser, for those of you who don't know me, from Besser Co Estate Agents, and today I'm arguing that real estate agents still deserve a bad reputation unless they can prove otherwise. This isn't just a critique. It's a challenge to our industry to rise to the standards our clients expect and deserve. For decades, real estate agents have struggled to shake off the reputation for mistrust. And frankly, the industry hasn't done enough to earn the benefit of the doubt. Too often, agents withhold key information, use vague manipulative language, and rely on advertising strategies that leave vendors disappointed and buyers frustrated. The practice of overpromising and underdelivering is still widespread, and agents inflate property values to win listings, only to push the price reductions later. And investigations like the Age analysis of 26,000 auctions reveal that more than half of properties sell above the advertised price range. Even if this isn't definitive proof of underquoting, it's a clear sign that the public feels misled. The lack of consistent professional standards is another major concern. Unlike law and medicine, real estate has a low barrier of entry and little ongoing accountability, despite the fact that agents are entrusted with people's most valuable assets. Commission-driven behavior often puts the agent's interests ahead of clients, only reinforces the stereotype that agents care more about transactions than relationships. And this is further proven by agents who tout their clearance rates rather than the results achieved for their clients. Until the industry embraces radical transparency, measurable standards, and genuine accountability, skepticism is not just understandable, it's justified.
That's a pretty interesting opening statement. And I know that there are stereotypes. So, Luke, the floor is yours now. Why do you think those stereotypes are outdated?
I'm here to argue against the motion that real estate agents still deserve a bad reputation. The stereotype of shady, untrustworthy agents is a relic of time when the market was less regulated and information was scarce. Today's reality is fundamentally different. The entire system has been transformed by a new era of regulation and transparency. Governments across Australia have implemented tough specific laws and created permanent task force with real teeth. From Victoria's underquoting task force to Queensland's new seller disclosure laws, the message is clear. The bad old days are over. Breaches are identified, penalised and publicised. At the same time, the market has evolved. Consumers are now better informed than ever, spending nearly a year researching their purchase. This means agents can no longer be gatekeepers of information. They must be guides, communicators, and trusted advisors. The minority who don't adapt and who break the rules are being culled by regulators. So let's stop judging the many by actions of a few. The reputation should reflect the norm, not the headline. Agents no longer deserve a bad rep.
Yeah, interesting. So I want to ask you several questions about that, but I have to keep quiet and let you guys ask each other questions about your opening arguments. So Dion, you get the floor again first. Would you like to ask Luke any questions?
Luke, I've been in real estate for 26 years. About 24 years ago, the first underquoting case, 23 or 24 years ago, that was the first underquoting case here in Victoria. Why is it that every couple of years there's recurring accusations, media articles around deceptive and dishonest conduct? Why is it constantly in the media if everything is now changed?
I think that there has been a time where we have been operating under an archaic system that hasn't had any fundamental or attitudinal change for quite some time. I think it was 2017 or 2016 where Statement of Information in Victoria came in. I only know that because I moved to Melbourne a couple of months earlier. And there was some radical changes in terms of statement information pricing, making sure that the information being disclosed to the purchasing public was matching the information discussed at the initial listing agreement and the signing of a legal document. To come back to the question, I think there's been more change in the last 9 years or 8 years than there has been in the 15 to 16 years previous to 2017-18, specifically talking to in Victoria. We're going through some change now in New South Wales, bit behind the eight ball there. I think it's been taking longer to get the change implemented than we initially thought, but we are working with a 20-year set of standards and a 20-year set of consistency in business that needs longer to change and to make sure that those change are dissipated at an office level, but also an industry level. But I agree with why has it taken so long to change. I don't have any control over that, but I think it's allowing more time for those changes to be implemented at both the office and industry level.
No doubt. I would actually agree that a lot has changed. There's no doubt about it. But the question I've got is, do you think it's actually improving how the public sees real estate agents? Is it actually leading to the community and the buyers and the vendors trusting us as an industry more?
If a buyer is deceived through the purchasing of a property, that buyer then becomes an owner. And when that buyer then decides to sell that property, they're on this different side of the transaction, whether they're buying and selling in the same market. But I'm saying on the way in, they're treated one way, and on the way out, they're treated another.
From a selling, if the agents aren't in a high level of customer service, being the trusted advisor like we spoke before, there's very, very few agents that will get repeat and referral business. From a public's perception, we need to be very, very careful from an agent's point of view that when we're in front of a lounge room or at an open home talking to purchasers, that our first impression, but also our lasting impressions on those people are, one, of transparency of giving information that's accurate, two, not being false and misleading, and three, making sure that we're dealing with them not just in a short-term focus, but with a long-term focus. Do I think it's changing in the public? I think it's changing. I don't think it's changed. I don't think perfect's got in the way of better. I think we're better than what we were. And I think if we get a little bit better every year, yes. But really it's down to an individual level at a local level as to the public's perceptions of brands, public's perceptions of agents, and then how those agents do business at a local level.
Luke, your turn now to quiz Dion over there in the red corner.
Cool. Lovely. This is fun. Taking into consideration the data around investigations, fines, suspensions, etc., and your question before regarding are we getting better or are we changing it at a public perception, what other initiatives and schemes would you implement to make sure that the perception of agents is changing quicker?
It's a really good question, actually, and I think I've got a good answer for you, actually. I think that our industry bodies and our governments need to do more in educating the public on the rules of engagement, how to bid at auction, how agents quote, how to buy a property, how to negotiate. You've got so many people complaining to Consumer Affairs about various things when really most of what they're complaining about isn't the agent doing anything wrong. It's just their perception of what is going on. Analysis that the agent at Sydney Morning Herald that did of 26,000 auctions, where they discovered that half of those properties were leading to results above the range. That is not evidence of underquoting. What that's evidence of is that the public distrust us enough for the media to consistently and constantly every couple of years bring this back into the 24-hour news cycle. We need to do better at educating the public on how to buy property, how to bid on a property, how agents quote, a little bit more consistency around that, by the way, because there's vast differences between the way one agent will quote and another will quote, especially in Victoria. So I believe more education from our governing bodies and from the government on how to play the game of buying and selling real estate.
I actually agree with the notion that more education is needed. I agree. Taking into consideration the maybe lack of an increased level, but also a lacking level of education in the market, how long do you think attitudinal change at an office level takes to make sure that it's dissipated into the market from a past way of doing business to the new wave of radical transparency?
So how long would it take to educate the team in the office on?
Yeah, from an attitudinal. So let's just keep it at an office level. How long does an attitudinal change take to dissipate in an office, and then it gets transferred into the marketplace?
I reckon, in my personal opinion, if it were my team and there was a change of legislation or a change in process in order to improve perceptions, I reckon 2 or 3 weeks, less than a month, I would say, to roll out any particular change. Because you've got to understand that a lot of these changes that we're rolling out are very small changes. Most of us are actually doing the right thing already. That I truly believe. So I believe 2, 3, maybe 4 training sessions around scripts and dialogues, around systems and procedures. If you've got experienced agents, they should be able to pivot very, very quickly with regards to a change to a script and or a system, I think.
Okay, then time for some evidence. Dion, you've got 90 seconds. What numbers back up your argument?
Over the weekend, I did a little bit of research and I've counted up to 80 articles across the nation in the media of misleading and deceptive conduct. There are around 80 articles nationwide discussing the real estate industry. So it's not just the one investigation that's come up recently in the Age and the Sydney Morning Herald. There have been over 80 articles in the last year talking about misleading and deceptive conduct across the nation. The one that really clenches it for me, and I've just got it up here, is according to the Grattan Institute occupational summary. I'm just going to read this. Ethical behavior. Now, the grade starts at plus 76 for under very ethical and goes all the way to minus 18, where it's categorized as neither ethical nor unethical. So this is the 2024 Grattan Institute Ethical Behavior Occupation Summary. Real estate is right at the bottom after federal politicians. That's saying something about real estate agents, that politicians are trusted more than us by 3 points. Fire services, nurses, ambulance services, right there at the top. State and federal politicians, then real estate agents right at the bottom. That really clenches it for me. And just to add to that, every year the media release these figures. So not only are we seeing over 80 articles approximately in the year around unethical behavior and misleading deceptive conduct, but they're releasing this data, basically putting real estate agents at the bottom of the list of ethical behaviors.
Again, I'm going to hold my questions to the end, but Luke, what evidence do you have?
I've just been going through over the last little while around how many people have been held accountable for false and misleading. And when I look at 2024, 55 fines across the state of New South Wales for underquoting, and I'm focusing on the underquoting piece here because I think it's a permanent, because there's certainly a lot of those 80 articles would be about the underquoting, Dion. Victoria, between 2022 and 2023, 48 underquoting infringements notice were issued, about over $500,000 in fines. So when I look at those sorts of numbers, and they were a lot lower than what I actually thought they were going to be, that's people that have actually been prosecuted and fined. out of the hundreds and thousands of transactions that take place in each state, and I haven't got the statewide stats, but we're talking hundreds of thousands of sales from, Bentley to Bendigo and Broken Hill to Bondi, and Queensland as well, Logan to, wherever else. When you look at the numbers of infringements and you look at the numbers of investigations that dilute down into fines and infringements, and on record, it's quite diluted. So when I say that I agree that there are 80 articles, probably even more so if you dig deeper and go back long enough. There's two different arguments here, though. I feel like with mentioning the media is the media obviously are going to be focusing on the negative connotations of what happens out there in the big wide world. I feel like there's some positivity around the number of investigations versus the number of fines. I'm not saying that the number of investigations aren't valid. If someone feels like they've been misled or mistreated, they should definitely put in a complaint or an investigation with their local governing body. I'm just saying that the numbers of people actually held to account that has to pay a fine to their state revenue office gets diluted down to a very, very small number. And in terms of percentages, when you take into consideration the transactions and the number of fines, it's I think rounded out as a percentage, it would be less than 1%.
So is it that there are some not so good real estate agents out there, and then that's confirmed by the various stories in the media that all real estate agents are bad? And so then the consumer goes, yeah, I knew it.
So I think there's a lot of preconceived ideas in the age of information, but I'm not necessarily saying that it's always the agent's fault, because we meet 30 people per open home. We do 5 or 6. We're meeting in excess of 100, 150, in some cases 250 buyers on a weekend. Their preconceived ideas on how we do business is frankly none of our business, and 2, completely impossible to regulate or to control or to understand prior to having a conversation. So I think we're stuck in the middle a lot.
We're definitely stuck in the middle. I mean, we're stuck in the middle of neither ethical nor unethical. I mean, literally the Gradden Institute, their study has, they can't even figure out whether we are or we're not. And I would agree with you. Until we have that contact with a buyer or a vendor, people don't know whether they trust us or not. But I think the way that we market, I think the way a lot of agents market themselves and their brands needs to improve. I actually truly believe that underquoting is a little bit of a storm in a teacup. I really truly believe that buyers do not understand the rules of engagement and how it all works, and that needs to be better explained. But then when they also see on social media the way agents are behaving, I mean, I don't think that buyers and sellers care whether we sell 100% or 90%. I think they care about the result that we're actually achieving for our clients. And I don't think underquoting is a signal or in isolation here. I think it's the way we market ourselves. I think it's the way that we put ourselves out there that creates this stereotypical image of mistrust.
But we don't actually know what someone's willing to spend on something until they're there in a competitive environment. And some people are pushed, some people are pulled. But what the agent put on the agency agreement 6 weeks ago when we started preparing the property for sale is completely irrelevant to what 4 registered bidders or 4 bidders compete with under a competitive and emotionally fueled environment at auction day at 10 a.m. on the 10th of October. So I think there is a discrepancy between what we put in writing and then what someone's perceived value is. And if someone's perceived value is very similar to somebody else's, then that competitive tension is going to put the price up. That's why auction's such a preferred method of sale. But we don't have any control about that. We do have control over if somebody's budget's $1 million and we tell them 900, but it's really going to sell for 1.4, we've got control over that. But we don't have control over a competitive environment.
Absolutely. I would agree with that. And I love auctions. And more so, I love auctions where we actually exceed our vendors' expectations and even our own expectations. Like I said, I think it's the full package. It's the whole package in which we market ourselves. It's underquoting is not in isolation. Like I said, I think that that's a bit of a storm in a teacup. It can be solved by educating the public on how pricing works and how real estate and emotion actually work. It's the full package. So it's when you see the articles in the paper about underquoting and misleading conduct, when you see the way that agents market themselves, you see the way in which they promote how many properties they're selling and how much money they're making and the cars that they're driving, it's the full picture that I think leads to this mistrust.
Okay, so we're up to my favourite bit now. Up until now, you've both argued your assigned sides, somewhat with conviction, but it's time for the truth reveal. Dion, what do you actually believe?
What do I really think? I think that we've got one of the most incredible industries. I have a lot of friends in law, accounting, finance, medicine, and the amount of training that I attend throughout the year, even after nearly 26 years, I go to groups in Sydney where we discuss, what people are doing. The amount of education and leadership in our industry is absolutely incredible. The large majority of our industry are actually doing the right thing. What I think needs to happen is that we're losing the PR campaign. As an industry, we need to be better at promoting the results that we achieve for our clients and what we're actually doing. We need to promote all the leadership that we've got in our industry through, whether it be a lead agent or other organizations that host training sessions or group sessions where we can discuss things. None of my friends who are in other industries have nearly the amount of support that our industry has here in Australia and likely in New Zealand as well. We are losing the PR war though. We need to be better at promoting how good we are and what we're actually doing to be as good as we are.
And so do you believe that agents still deserve their bad reputation?
I think that they still deserve a bad reputation until they prove otherwise. We need to prove it.
Luke, where do you really stand?
I think that there is a level of accountability in the marketplace now that wasn't there 4 or 5 years ago. That's a really good thing. Do I think they deserve their bad reputation? Well, if you treat people like crap, you probably deserve your bad reputation. I think the agents that are doing the right thing, operating with 6-star service, radical transparency, direct conversations with buying and selling public, and doing the right thing at a local level, then they'll shine through. But if you're a transactional agent that's telling people what they want to hear rather than what they need to know, you're going to get found out pretty quickly. But at the end of the day as well, you cannot stop criminal behavior. If somebody wants to act criminally, it's an intention that it's very hard to know when you first meet someone, because you go in with the best intentions, but it's very quick to find out, and you will be found out quickly.
Interesting. So I get to play devil's advocate with you just for a couple of minutes while we wrap this up, because this has been a seriously interesting conversation. But agents only get paid when something signs or settles or gets sold in some way. So the incentive is the sale. Are we debating reputation, or are we debating whether it's possible to be truly ethical in a system that actually where the incentive is all based around a result?
Commission-driven behavior, and sometimes a race to the bottom, which is also an issue, right? I know that, across Victoria, there's very, very low stock, and there are plenty of agents who are reducing their commissions because they literally have nothing to sell. And there are good agents out there right now with nothing to sell, and it's literally a race to the bottom. So the argument is, and I don't actually have the answer to this question, but do we go back to fixed commissions like they had, or regulated commissions like they had in the past? But I believe they deregulated commissions, at least in Victoria, in order to bring more competition into the marketplace. But the argument is, with that competition, have they also brought in less experienced agents through very little barrier of entry? That's the question. I don't have the answer to that.
I think it needs to be dealt. You could deep dive into this for an hour, for three days if you needed to. But I don't begrudge someone for having an opinion about something to get paid. That's not the issue. But I think the way in which our transaction takes place is probably what needs to be looked at first, rather than the agent's incentivized to get paid, because there's a lot of commission-only roles out there as well. So I think I'm somewhere in the middle there, but I don't have an answer to the question either, Sam.
If real estate agents have a terrible reputation, on the other hand, like all of my friends will have a real estate agent that they'll love and recommend. So sometimes I wonder whether it is about the real estate industry, or have we lost a bit of trust in institutions over the years while still maintaining trust in the individual? Is there any merit in that thought?
I absolutely. Listen, if you've gone through the process of selling a property a few times and you've found a really good agent who communicated well with you, got you a good result, and somebody you feel comfortable having in your home, quite often people just stick with those people for forever, quite frankly, which is a sign that things are changing, Luke. There's no doubt about it. There are some brilliant real estate agents out there who are not just good salespeople, but they are transparent, they communicate well, and they build trust. But what's interesting, if I can just go back to this ethics report, is that the negativity increases with age. So what that's suggesting here, it says here, oldest cohorts feel more negative versus younger. That's not to say that there aren't good agents, but this report is suggesting that the more you sell a property and the older you get, the less you trust the industry.
Obviously, there's still work to do, but if there was one thing that you could recommend to anyone listening right now, and I'll start with you, Dion, because B comes before E again. If there was one thing that we could all do to raise the reputation of the industry, what would it be?
I think for all the agents that are listening out there, if you are a top agent and you believe you are a good communicator, you're direct, you're honest, you're ethical, you're transparent, I think this is a challenge to all of those really top agents out there to start marketing yourself with really good content. Vendors and buyers want content, they want information. The more information they have, the more they will trust us. I think that's a challenge to the industry. For all those top agents out there, start marketing yourself. Start marketing yourself as somebody who is trustworthy and successful, but don't overinflate or make it look like it's all about you. Make it about the client, not about you.
There's hundreds, thousands of agents out there. If you don't like one of them, don't tarnish the rest of them with the same brush as dealing with one palooka. There's most of them, and if not 97.5% of them are good people that you could have a coffee with or dinner with, and it's they're just trying to do what that's their chosen profession, and they're just trying to earn a living, provide for their families. They're not brain surgeons. They're not saving lives. We're selling a product to someone who wants a product for someone that's got the product to sell. That's our job and that's our role. But if my advice to anyone out there would be, if you don't like someone, look a bit deeper, because you'll find someone out there that you like locally, because they're all pretty good people.
All right, now it's your turn. Head to the brief on Monday and vote. Do real estate agents still deserve their bad reputation? And if this conversation made you think at all, if it challenged something that you believed, share it with someone who needs to hear it. I'm your host, Samantha McLean. This has been Edge Case. Keep questioning everything, keep exploring ideas, and join us next time on the Thought Leaders podcast.